And there's intimacy on the radio, and there's naturalness on the radio that can never be replicated on TV. The marvelous resurgence of radio as a political force in this country.
News-related radio programming is evolving.
There's a huge hole in our dialogue that can be filled by the synthesis of traditional radio and the freedom that comes from a live podcast. You're about to experience Cowboy State Politics live. Here we go. Good morning, my friends, and welcome to another fantastic installment from very high above all the puerile and pedantic forms of Wyoming mainstream media. This is Cowboy State Politics. I, of course, am your illustrious host, David Iverson, firmly ensconced behind the silver Cowboy State Politics microphone and broadcasting to you from the base of the Bighorns at the Cowboy State Politics studio in Sheridan, Wyoming. Good morning, my friends, and welcome to the program. Happy Wednesday. As it turns out, you'll have one day where there really isn't all that much to talk about. And then the next, there'll be this deluge. And it never fails that Agent 29 tries to leave me high and dry when I need him the most. But he's back. He's back from gallivanting around the state, screwing up. What is it that you do when you're not here?
They offered me this time a helicopter ride, and who was I to decline? So we went up, we examined the elk fire, we went up Little Goose Canyon and flew the face all the way to Montana and then came back. And I just have to say thank you to Sheridan County Weed and Pest for that opportunity. It was terrific. Having grown up here, it was pretty cool to get that
I imagine
flight.
So. All right. Well, anyway, welcome back to the program. I missed you. Of course, we always miss you here on the program. It's it's a different show when you end up pushing the buttons for yourself. So anyway, welcome back to Agent 29.
Yeah, and this studio has a lot more buttons than you got at home.
That's true.
But I got to sit in the shotgun seat in the chopper.
Oh, enough about me. Let's talk about you.
And they have a lot of buttons. He also had a light that said "Master Fail."
Yeah.
I guess it's like the check engine light.
I don't worry about that thing. Don't pay no attention to that. It's just the windshield wipers that won't work. But we begin this morning with Eric Barlow, former Redcoat Speaker of the House, Eric Barlow. He's decided that he's going to run for governor. Now, of course, the Cowpie tries to play this off like it's some sort of news break. Breaking news: Eric Barlow has decided to run for the governorship. Yeah, it's not breaking news. If you've been paying attention to Wyoming politics for any length of time, we all could have seen this one coming. But it's not the great thing that the Cowpie makes it out to be. And I'm going to tell you about that in just a second. But first, let's go to the piece in the Cowpie. In an article entitled "Wyoming State Senator Eric Barlow Announces Run for Governor." We need that little wah, wah, wah sound bite. Here's what it says, and I quote: "As a handful of Wyoming Republicans with name recognition across the state play wait and see with U.S. Representative Harriet Hageman and the 2026 race for governor, a longtime state legislator isn't waiting any longer. He's had enough. He can't wait any longer, and he has to announce now. Why? I have no idea. My guess it would be he's just trying to chase some people out of the race. I don't know why he thinks that he would chase them out, but I'm sure that's part of the motivation."
I'm sorry for the timing of this. I don't have the sad trumpet queued up, but I do have this one.
Yeah, as long as it explodes. I mean, it's all good. So anyway, Barlow made the announcement at the Wright Centennial Museum in Campbell County, not far from the generational ranch where he grew up. If there was ever a puff piece, this is it. I mean, how many great adjectives can you throw into one opinion piece? I mean, news piece talking about a political announcement. Quote, I'm here with you, friends and family, in right, to humbly announce my candidacy for governor. There is nothing humble about Eric Barlow, nor has there ever been. I ask for your support as we embark on this vital journey for our state's future. Elected and now, blah, blah, blah. I love Wyoming. I love her honest, hardworking people whose grit and independent spirit make our beloved state so great. Then why has he tried so many times to destroy our great state, would be my question. Oh, you beg to differ, you say. You say Eric Barlow is a conservative. Let me just give you a little data points about the former Redcoat Speaker of the House, Eric Barlow. Of course, he was Speaker of the House for, let's see here, what was it? The 2021-2022 legislative session. And that guy presided over some of the most disastrous things for our state. Probably the biggest one is the do-nothing special session that we had about trying to deal with vaccine mandates. Eric Barlow, along with his pals over in the Senate, made sure, Ogden Driscoll was one of the main ones, made sure that not a single bill came out of that. Not one single thing that would help you came out of the special session. He also tried to pass his Restoration of Rights bill. And this one, I expect that Agent 29 will want to weigh in on. But the so-called Restoration of Rights bill that every single actual gun rights advocate in this state tried to tell everyone that it was an absolute disaster. That if you had lost your right to possess a firearm at the federal level, there isn't a darn thing that the state of Wyoming can do to give that right back to you. Yet Eric Barlow insisted that he had it all nailed down and that everybody was going to get their guns back. What do you think about that, 29?
His bill, in fact, it did backfire. We had some issues with that just this last year.
Now we're about to talk about them.
Yeah, but the concept was, if Wyoming can't take your gun rights away, we can't restore them.
Yeah.
Therefore, let's put in legislation that says Wyoming can take your gun rights away.
Perfect.
That's actually what the bill was about.
That's absolutely what it was. Now, this might be a little bit inside baseball, but prior to Eric Barlow's bill, Wyoming did not have a felon in possession of a firearm statute, nor did we have a statute that took your gun rights away. It didn't exist in Wyoming law. Well, in order to give your gun rights back, the state has to have the ability to take them away. So really what Eric Barlow's bill did was it put in statute that the state of Wyoming can take your gun rights away, which I would argue that your rights are given to you by God and government can't take them away. But he certainly put in statute that the state can take them away. And now we have another statute that is not exactly pro-Second Amendment. Well, so here's the other problem with it. Because the state cannot give you your gun rights back if the federal government took them away, which, again, I mean, we're getting into some pretty murky rights talk here. But, legally speaking, if you commit a felony in the United States, the federal government can say you do not have the right to possess a firearm anymore. So what happened after that bill was passed is the Department of Corrections sent out notices to what I was told about 10,000 felons in Wyoming saying, congratulations, you've got your gun rights back. Sent them a little certificate and everything. It was signed by the governor. It was great. Everybody who previously could not own a firearm now, according to the Department of Corrections, could. The only problem with that is Wyoming cannot change federal law. Neither Eric Barlow nor Ogden Driscoll nor even Agent 29 can change one iota of federal law. So what happened is a guy over in Bighorn. He got raided by the ATF. All of his guns and his wife's guns were taken. I don't even know. I haven't talked to them for a while, but I'm pretty sure his wife hasn't even got her guns back yet. But they raided his house. They ransacked the place. It was a big deal. And all of it is the fault of Eric Barlow. And everybody else that voted for it. Of course, Agent 29 and I tried our best to convince people that there's no way that you should ever vote for this bill, that really it's writing gun control into Wyoming law. But they passed it anyway, and 10,000 Wyoming citizens paid the price for it.
Yeah, the problem is those folks, they had certification. I'm good and free. I'm good to go.
They thought they were completely, certificate, Ken.
Yeah, they thought they were completely within the law. to be able to have the firearms again.
Yeah.
Well, nobody bothered to notify the feds, and of course they came in and caused all kinds of issues. Yeah, and last I knew, they hadn't got their weapons back
Yeah,
yet.
it's been a while since I've talked to them, but I don't think that they've got their weapons back. But anyway, the whole reason why Eric Barlow sponsored that bill, pushed so hard for it, is so that he would have some sort of Second Amendment credibility when it came to the next choice, the next election he was going to run in, namely this one.
He got some Second Amendment credibility.
Yeah, ruining people's lives. And writing gun control into Wyoming law. And anybody that supported this bill, and there were a bunch of conservatives that signed on to it, but anybody that voted for this thing, you were an idiot. You should have listened to Agent 29. You should have listened to me. Should have listened to anybody that, is an honest Second Amendment advocate. We all knew that that bill was a piece of crap. But a lot of conservatives were duped by it. And you shouldn't have. I mean, it really hurt Wyoming citizens. And so, if you're looking for somebody that is protecting Wyoming's way of life, it's not Eric Barlow. Let me give you some other data points to go on here. As you all know, I'm one of those that likes to look at how people vote. I mean, how you vote is who you are. And Eric Barlow is a straight-up liberal, according to Evidence-Based Wyoming. In the 2022 budget session, Eric Barlow voted 84.88% of the time with the Democrats. 85% of the time, he voted with the Democrats. In the 2023 legislative session, 82% of the time, he voted with the Democrats. In the 2024 budget session in the Senate, he voted with the Democrats 82% of the time. Now, please explain to me how this guy is at all conservative or is at all interested in helping out your rights as a Wyoming citizen. He's not. Let's go to another one. According to WyoVote, in 2024, he ranked 21st out of 31 in the Wyoming Senate, which, interestingly enough, his voting record is 100% different, 100% to the left than is Speaker Chip Nyman's. He is the polar opposite of Chip Nyman as far as how conservative he is. According to WyoRhino, in 2024. He scored a 50% is voting according to the Wyoming Republican Party platform. So 50%, still an F, but a heck of a lot better than some of his old redcoat buddies. But in 2025, he scored a 29%. He actually did worse the next session. Eric Barlow is not, nor has he ever been, anywhere close to being a Republican. Oh, I know he's got that R at the end of his name, but he's most certainly not a Republican. And it's there are so many different votes we could look at as far as Eric Barlow goes, and I look forward to dissecting each and every one of those. But I can tell you for a fact, my friends, that Eric Barlow may as well be the Democrats' choice for governor, which is why he announced now. I mean, he's going to sop up some of the liberal votes in the state, but I foresee. And maybe this is a prediction. Maybe I'm just telling you what I'm going to do a little bit later. But there's going to be a lot that comes out about Eric Barlow's voting record, as there rightly should be, because, my friends, it is absolutely atrocious. Now, the Cowboy, to their credit, I suppose, does have a little section called Not Conservative Enough. Those conservative principles have become a major political issue in Wyoming politics with the rise of the Wyoming Freedom Caucus and a more socially conservative red wave. Barlow historically has not been aligned with the Freedom Caucus. That's because they wouldn't let him within 100 yards of the word conservative. That also was the main issue when his Senate race was contested in 2022 with Patty Junick. She ran against Eric Barlow, and she just didn't have the name recognition to win that race. But she did get a sizable amount of votes for running as an independent in the general election. Eric Barlow also beat out Frank Ethorn Sr. in the Republican primary by 66% of the vote. That was in 2016. But a couple of the Freedom Caucus people have weighed in on Mr. Eric Barlow. One of my favorite representatives, Representative Rachel Rodriguez Williams, said, quote, if the last two election cycles in Wyoming have taught us anything, it's that Wyomingites want real conservative leadership. Senator Barlow isn't conservative enough for Wyoming and the Wyoming Freedom Caucus. And I really wish that she wouldn't have put it that way. She should have said, Eric Barlow is not a conservative at all. In any place in this universe is Eric Barlow a conservative. He's a straight up liberal Democrat that has an R at the end of the name. I mean, he was one of the first people I looked at and said, that guy is a redcoat, because he absolutely is. Let's see here. What else we got here? So, I mean, the article goes on and on. I mean, it's a puff piece simply about Eric Barlow, but Secretary of State Chuck Gray had a couple of thoughts, and I quote, Secretary of State Chuck Gray emphasized that he is not declaring a gubernatorial run at this juncture, as he said on the program yesterday. We played the interview, which, by the way, we should get some reaction to the video I played on yesterday's program. But anyway, let's see here. Gray says, Barlow has always been an ambitious insider, so it's not surprising that he's announcing so early to try to unite the insiders and the liberal media around his campaign. Gray used terms like liberal media 4 times in his text message and said that Barlow is declaring early in the election cycle to unite, quote, the insiders and the liberal media around his campaign. He declined to say which news outlets are liberal media. My statement stands for itself, Chuck Gray said. If you are employed by the Cowboy and you have to ask someone if which news outlet are you referring to that might be liberal? That might be your first indication that it's you, that everything you write is left-leaning at best. So anyway, we've got Eric Barlow running for governor, and I mean, this is just the left's version, or the left's candidate, and he's just like Secretary of State Chuck Gray said, he came out this early to sop up the liberal vote and to get the lamestream Wyoming press around him. Though I think that he's going to have a harder time than he realizes. Now, politically, Eric Barlow, I mean, he's fairly well known on this side of the state. He was Speaker of the House for, of course, 2 sessions, but that doesn't mean that his name recognition is anywhere close to, say, like Secretary of State Chuck Gray. In fact, Secretary Gray yesterday on the show, he said that he did some polling, and he's way out in front of all these people in a hypothetical matchup. So I don't really think that Barlow's got the name recognition, and nor do I think that he's going to be able to beat somebody like, I don't know, Secretary Gray, or, or definitely Harriet Hageman. He doesn't stand a chance against her.
So I think it's interesting, name recognition. Look at what happened. What pivotal thing happened to the legislature effectively under Barlow's speakership?
COVID.
What happened to the next few elections after Barlow's speakership? That's when people woke up. If he has name recognition, it goes back, I think, at least in part to that, where people woke up and said, wow.
Well, and
these people aren't doing what we want them to do.
You know why that is?
And it pivoted.
I mean, the reason for that is COVID, because the Wyoming legislature was forced to put everything they're doing on YouTube because they weren't allowing anybody into the Capitol. So they put all of the legislative meetings on YouTube, and Wyoming citizens were able to look and see how these people were voting. And this tells you like how arrogant these people are. You would think when you realize that the camera is on you, that every man, woman, and child in Wyoming can see exactly how you're voting, that you would shape up, that you would vote the way that you told your constituents you would vote. But they didn't. They said crazy stuff like, let's see here. Let me find you.
Senator French, that's currently the law now. In order to attend public school, you must be immunized. But your children don't have to attend public school. It's all a choice.
Now, that soundbite was actually kind of before COVID. Senator Slithers was killing Anthony Bouchard's bill that would have banned vaccine mandates. Do you have the one from Bob Nicholas?
I do. You keep going. I'll find it.
All right. I can get it pretty close. But anyway, on the floor of the House, and you should go back to watch that special session. If you want to see exactly who these people are, listen to this.
There is no doubt, I mean, from all the medical information out there, that we are in a pandemic of the unvaccinated. If everyone was vaccinated, this pandemic would be gone.
So that was Bob Nicholas. And that's just one example of the crazy stuff that was said on the floor of the Wyoming House of Representatives. And on the floor of the Wyoming Senate. In the end, what they worked on was a gambling bill in the Senate. And the only COVID-related bill that went through that special session was some money for lawsuits. That was it. Under Eric Barlow's leadership, nothing happened to protect your rights.
I think that was part of the plan there for that special session. They wanted to be able to have in the future the ability to say special sessions don't work, unless, of course, they call them.
Well, yeah. I mean, that was part of it, right?
Yeah,
everything they do has an end goal in it. And, if you want to know why they didn't do anything during the special session, it's, like Agent 29 said. But also, I think it was an attempt to say, we're the ones that are in charge. You just let us handle it. Let Governor Gordon handle it. And Alexia, what was her name? Harris was her last name. But anyway, the chief health officer. So anyway, campaign season is afoot. We've got Redcoat, former Speaker of the House Eric Barlow, running for governor. And Harriet, please, if you're listening, please come back and run for governor and put us all out of the misery of Eric Barlow. Let's move to the national scene here. Nancy Pelosi cites January 6th to criticize the Trump takeover of Washington, D.C., and gets obliterated by the former chief of the Capitol Police. Now, this is fascinating. And this just tells you, again, this kind of goes back to what I was just talking about. Their memory is so short because they think that you have forgotten about all of these big, nasty, terrible things that they did to you. And the Wyoming legislature is a perfect example of it. People like Ogden Driscoll, Eric Barlow, Senator Slithers, Bob Nicholas, they count on your memory being short. So they can do all sorts of things to you in one session, and a couple of years later, they think that you've forgotten about it. That is why this program is so important, because, my friends, I have an enormous soundbite archive, and we pretty much keep them all. Sometimes I have to keep Agent 29 from deleting the ones that he doesn't like to listen to, but I'm telling you, my friends, this program is not going to let anybody, especially Eric Barlow, off the hook. But anyway, Nancy Pelosi suffers from the same disease. And I quote, a former Capitol Police chief ripped into Democratic Representative Nancy Pelosi of California after she tried to cite the rioting at the U.S. Capitol when criticizing Donald Trump's takeover of D.C. Here's what she said, quote, when I needed assistance, it was denied. Yet, when it suited you, you ordered fencing topped with concertina wire and surrounded the Capitol with thousands of National Guard troops. Donald Trump delayed, and this is Nancy Pelosi, listen to this. Donald Trump delayed deploying the National Guard on January 6th when our Capitol was under violent attack and our lives were at stake. Now he's activating the D.C. Guard to distract from his incompetent, mishandling of tariffs, healthcare, education, and immigration, just to name a few. Unfortunately for her, though, Stephen Sund was in charge of the U.S. Capitol Police on January 6th, and he had kind of a polite response to her. Just remind her of a couple of things. Here's what he said, quote, ma'am, it is long past time to be honest with the American people. On January 3rd, I requested National Guard assistance, but your Sergeant-at-Arms denied it. Under federal law 2 U.S.C. 1970, I was prohibited from calling them in without specific approval. That same day, Carol Corbin at the Pentagon offered National Guard support, but I was forced to decline because I lacked legal authority. On January 6th, while the Capitol was under attack, and despite my repeated calls, your Sergeant-at-Arms again denied my urgent request for over 70 agonizing minutes, running it up the chain for your approval. When I needed assistance, it was denied. You see, this is an example of Nancy Pelosi and the liberal elite counting on the fact that your memory is so short. And I mean, this is what Democrats do. They think that things happen so quickly that you're going to forget about all the mean and evil stuff they've done to you. Namely, that you tried to blame innocent American citizens for something they didn't do. Namely, this insurrection thing that they cooked up. But I'm glad to see that the Capitol Police, that they're finally speaking out, telling the truth to American citizens. I mean, it's about damn time.
I have a little different perspective on this whole thing because I lived it for several years. I was, during much of my military career of 10 years, I was a battalion how do you explain it? Basically, there is a detachment called the headquarters detachment that logistically handles all the affairs of all of the battalion level headquarters.
Right.
So there's 2 headquarters in the same place. And we're the little ones. And so over me, I did a particular job for that group, that company or detachment or whatever it was. But the same thing was replicated above me by a battalion motor sergeant, a BMS, and a BMO, which was generally major. And so they had policies that covered the entire battalion. I had policies that just covered that detachment that was supporting these people. And this is very similar to what we see in Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. that's kind of the level that I had at that. But directly there and on site are people that have much more authority and much more reach than have you. And we had at times some people in our detachment or in a company that frankly were worthless as an ashtray on a motorcycle. And when we got a good battalion commander in there, the battalion commander would look down and say, okay, this isn't working. And they would just take over a lot of the policy making for the detachment or the headquarters. I saw that happen several times. And when you serve in that capacity, you realize that you are subordinate to the big dogs, so to speak. And it's not really a token position. You have a job and responsibility. But the fact remains that whoever is on the ground with the most rank is the one that's actually in charge. And I appreciate what our president is doing right now because he's demonstrating the ineptitude that has been Washington, D.C. as a city, as a place, and there's no way in hell they should ever be given statehood.
No, well, so just to let our audience in on this, early this morning we talked to Representative Hageman, and we'll play that interview tomorrow on the program. But this is one of the things that we talked about, that Washington, D.C. Is in the Constitution. That is one of the few pieces of land that is mentioned in the Constitution that the federal government can own. This whole D.C. statehood thing, they would have to amend the Constitution to allow D.C. to be its own state. And the reason why, and Harriet explains this during the interview, which again, you'll hear tomorrow. But the reason why Washington, D.C. is not in any state is that would be too much political power for any one state. So in the Constitution, it says it's part of the federal government.
Yeah, so you have people that will object to that and say, okay, well, the people that live and work in Washington, D.C. don't have any representation. The hell they don't. They walk and talk with these people every day.
Yeah, exactly right. Well, and so the law enforcement in D.C., it's actually managed by Congress, and the president can act, according to Harriet, and again, that's tomorrow. She says the president can act for 30 days, and really, he's not taking over D.C., that he's working in concert with the D.C. law enforcement. But that's an interesting discussion in the interview. Yeah, and they're, according to Harriet, they're all for it. She's talked to some of those folks. So anyway, but there's a piece in the Daily Caller by, let's see here. It's entitled Jonathan Turley Explains Why Trump's D.C. crackdown can't be stopped. And the news media, the only thing they're trying to do is obfuscate that Trump's a tyrant, Trump's trying to take over, Trump's trying to exercise his power. And that's not true at all. That's the only thing they can do is kind of muddy the waters because the law doesn't agree with them. Now, I'll get into this piece in just a second, but first I want to go ahead and take a break. And then when we come back, we'll finish this up thing. And I've got some other news about the courts. You should have watched what the other hand was doing because it's not over. We'll do that when we come back. Are you tired of all the meaningless political drivel floating around right now? Endless commentary that really doesn't have anything backing it up? Do you long for the days of true investigative journalism, coming from an authoritative source who really doesn't care how popular and apparently good-looking a politician is? Fortunately for you, that's what I do on Cowboy State Politics. New episodes are published every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday, and you can get them anywhere that you get your podcasts. iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, really any of them will work. But the easiest way is just to go to the website, cowboystatepolitics.com. There, you can find all of the shows, as well as any of the articles I might bring up during the course of the program. Cowboy State Politics Live, the program you're listening to right now, is broadcast every Tuesday through Friday, beginning at 8 a.m. Pay attention to all of that other block-headed nonsense if you want. Just make sure that you don't miss an episode of Cowboy State Politics. And now, back to our program. Welcome back to the program, Cowboy State Politics Live on a Thursday. I'm your host, David Iverson, Wyoming's conservative voice, documented to be almost always right 99% of the time. Sorry, Ogden Driscoll. I'm going to explain that to you on the podcast, which will be released shortly after today's live program, probably around 12. You know, Wednesdays, man, it's jam-packed for me in the morning. But anyway, so today's installment of the podcast is going to be entitled The World According to Ogden. And my friends, I have some of his greatest hits lined up for you. Augie can, he can try to buffalo you anyway, as much as he wants. But the truth is, he said some things that are just pretty incredible. And he's out for one person. It's not you. It's him. And it's pretty clear when you listen to what he says. Now, before the break, we were talking about the National Guard helping out the law enforcement in D.C. And Jonathan Turley, who I think is a pretty well-respected lawyer, has a piece out in the Daily Caller, or at least the piece in the Daily Caller is talking about his thoughts about this, so-called D.C. crackdown. But here's what Jonathan Turley says, quote, Washington, D.C. is unique. He, being the president, is able to do this more easily here because it's a federal enclave, Turley told America Report's co-host Sandra Smith. It essentially belongs under the jurisdiction of Congress, which gave D.C. self-rule. But that was not a complete surrender of authority. They have a right to take it back. And the president has a right to take control of the D.C. police during periods. Now, if he wants to go longer than 30 days, he can do so. He can also bring out the National Guard. And once again, there's no governor here, so that's also easier and would be the case in other blue cities. He has already conveyed in California and now D.C. that he's prepared to go as far as he needs to go until he feels that they're taking the needs of citizens more seriously. The most effective thing for him as the U.S. Attorney, our former colleague who is really hitting the ground, and he's talking about Harmeet Dillon, she has a zero tolerance policy for crime. Excuse me. He's talking about Jeanine Pirro, not Harmeet Dillon. Harmeet Dillon is civil rights. Jeanine Pirro is the U.S. attorney there. She has a zero tolerance policy approach to crime. At least on the U.S. attorney side, there's going to be a very, very sharp and very tough enforcement. The problem still remains in the D.C. courts and the laws the D.C. Council has passed that can be viewed as one of the most liberal jurisdictions in the country. So why has crime been allowed to explode in Washington, D.C.? Well, it's pretty easy. This is the broken windows theory, or as Rudolph Giuliani would say, the broken windows policy, that if you have a broken window on a building, it is far more likely that somebody else is going to come by and throw another rock through another window because you already have a broken window. So obviously there's no reason why we shouldn't throw another window. In other words, that you have to prosecute the low-level crimes just as much as you prosecute the higher-level ones. And my friends, deterrence works. If there is a penalty associated with committing a crime, the likelihood that somebody is going to commit it is far lower. A good example is all of these smash and grabs. groups of, gang type folks get together. They go into a store and they just smash the place up and take whatever they want because they know that they're not going to be prosecuted for it, that there's not going to be a real attempt to find out who did it. And so if there's no repercussions for what you're going to do, there's no reason why you wouldn't do it. And I mean, it's a simple explanation, but I think that it's exactly what's going on. With cities like Washington, D.C., that has no cash bail laws, that you get popped and they release you immediately, that you don't have to sit in jail until you can come up with bail. And then you have people that have been arrested, 10, 11, 12 times with no repercussions whatsoever. If there isn't any punishment associated with crime, if you're not going to be prosecuted, there's no reason to assume that people are going to stop. And think about how many people we hear about, how many illegal aliens we hear about, maybe not so much anymore, but during the Biden administration, that, oh, this person's a convicted murderer and he's out running around. He's a convicted rapist and he's running around. Oh, aggravated assault, and he hasn't been prosecuted for it. So why would you assume that those folks are not going to commit more crime? Well, absolutely they're going to. And so, I mean, that's the biggest reason why crime exists in some of our more Democrat cities. And frankly, if you want to see a hellhole of a city, go find a Democrat-run one. I mean, you'll almost in every single case, whether it's Denver or Chicago or New York or Washington, D.C., crime is through the roof because there's no enforcement. And frankly, it's because the folks that are in power, they have a flawed vision of human beings. They see crime as a social problem. That, oh, it was, your daddy treated you bad, and so you're a criminal. We just need to get you into some therapy, and the therapy is going to make you stop committing crimes. That's bullcrap. There are criminals in the world. There are folks that it's far easier for them to break into a store and steal a bunch of crap than it is for them to go out and earn a living. And I mean, if you're the type of person that thinks that this is all a social problem and you can solve it, that you need more social workers than you do police, yeah, your city is going to be overrun by criminals.
There are people that get a certain adrenaline rush out of doing that sort of thing, and they get addicted to that. So there are all kinds of reasons people commit crimes rather than they're deprived or
all of that
repressed.
Is, and frankly, if you're committing a crime, I don't really care what your parents did to you. And I don't buy that line anyway. I know lots of people that had a really screwed up childhood, like really bad, and they turned out to be pretty upstanding people. So, I mean, it is absolute deflection to say, well, you really can't help what you're doing. You can't help being a criminal. Look at what your parents did to you. That is a bunch of bull crap. Everybody has free will. Everybody can choose to either be an upstanding, law-abiding citizen, or you can choose to be a criminal. And if we continue to deflect and to assign blame where it's frankly doesn't belong, you are going to have crime. And you wonder why. Ken, have you ever wondered why we don't have a lot of crime in Wyoming? I mean, have you ever sat back and said, well, I mean, I know there's only 500,000 people that live here, but why don't we have crime here?
Well, how do you define crime? I see a lot.
Well, I mean, you don't see a lot of home invasions or break-ins of cars, theft.
I think a lot of it has to do with the size of our communities and the fact that, it's a bit of a stretch to say everybody knows everybody. But
I think you're off base here.
Okay. You have every right to be wrong. When you live in a community where you don't have that anonymity, you have some accountability for who you are. And
that part I agree with.
That's what I'm talking about. And you see, conversely, online where people will say anything or whatever because there's no retribution. If they're under an alias or something, it works that way. But I think that's the primary thing. You get into. I know people that go on vacation. They want to go to a big city where nobody knows them, so they can just kind of let their hair down.
Right. Nobody back home is going to know them. Which if you're me, it doesn't matter where we go. We run into people that we know. I mean, we were in Dallas at the Texas Rangers game. We ran into somebody that we knew. No, it wasn't Josh.
I was sitting in the whatever they call the big auditorium, Peachtree Plaza or whatever it is in Atlanta, and there was a speaker on stage that said something about Wyoming, and the people next to me jumped up and went, "Woohoo!" And when they sat back down, I kind of leaned over and said, I'm curious what part of Wyoming you're from. And he looked at me and he says, "Oh, there's no way you would know." And I said, "Try me." He said, "Shell." And I says, "Oh, yeah." I said, "Jack was a good friend of mine. Jack Smith was my neighbor."
Yeah, I mean, it's a small world. Now, the part that I agree with, what you just said, Ken, is the accountability part. That in a small town, and I often joke that in Buffalo, everybody knows what you did before you do. And that really, I mean, that's true. I mean, it's kind of funny, but it's actually true. Let me give you an example here.
Well, my dad, when he was losing it, he was getting into the Alzheimer's things. He'd go downtown and forget why he was there, and then he would quip. He says, "All I have to do to cure that is just ask somebody, and they all know what I'm down there for."
Exactly. So here's a great example for you. I had a gift certificate to a restaurant, one of the most amazing restaurants, I think, in this half of Wyoming. It's now closed, but it was called the Winchester. And I had a gift certificate to go there. Well, I don't like having dinner by myself. And so I just asked one of my friends that I knew, "Hey, do you want to go have dinner?" And so she and I went to the Winchester, had a fantastic dinner, had a great time, and we were leaving. And the reason I was driving is, I don't drink. And so, my friend said, "Hey, do you mind if I have a couple drinks?" I'm like, "Yeah, no problem." Well, anyway, we leave. And right as I'm pulling out of the parking lot, my dad is calling me. And I answer, like, "Hey, Pops, what's up?" And he goes, "We have to talk about who you just had dinner with." And I'm like, "Well, I know, but how do you know?" And he goes, "Oh, I have my sources." But the point is that you lack the anonymity. And so you are held accountable for whatever that you do. And I'm not just saying legally, I'm just saying, unless you're a county commissioner and you drive the wrong way on the interstate, blackout drunk, then you get reelected by over 1,000 votes. But anyway, you have accountability. And the other reason, and this is why I say that we don't have such a high crime rate, the biggest reason is that 3 out of every 4 people you run into are probably packing a gun. That we take personal responsibility very seriously here. Most people, the reason why you don't break into a house here is you're probably going to meet the business end of a 12 gauge when you walk through the door, or when you crawl through the window or whatever. But there are repercussions to the things that you do, whether it be legally or whether it just be somebody else in the community. You are going to be found out about it, and you are going to be held accountable, whether the law does it or not. That's the reason I think we don't have a lot of crime here. And it's simply because, you're probably going to face the business end of a firearm if you try to break into somebody's home, or you try to attack somebody. So, but if you compare that to other big cities, there is the anonymity that 29 mentioned. That it's pretty easy to blend into a crowd and get away with whatever it is that you're doing. There's no accountability, and when you increase the amount of accountability, crime will go down. And by that, I mean actually prosecute criminals. Now, on the other end of this, and this is something that we talked about with former Chief Justice Kate Fox, that you actually have to give the punishments that are prescribed in statute, that there has to be a punishment associated with the crime you're convicted of. And too often, our judges let people off with probation. "Oh, you need to go to therapy. You're a 5-time drunk driver. Clearly, you have a mental condition. We should get you therapy." I disagree. I say, send you to Riverton for a cool 2-year stay and let you cool your jets without a beer and see what happens. We have to prosecute criminals. Deterrence works. And if there is a punishment associated with the crime, you are far less likely to commit it. Now, speaking of the courts, and this is one that I talked about on this program, and we may have talked about it with U.S. Representative Harriet Hageman, but another example of watch what the other hand is doing from the Federalist. An article entitled, "The Supreme Court Killed Universal Injunctions in Name Only." And if you remember on this program, I told you that the Supreme Court left open the door for class action lawsuits. And guess what liberal judges are doing? They're opening up huge classes all willy-nilly in an effort to place injunctions on presidential actions. From the piece, quote, on June 27th, the Supreme Court handed President Donald Trump what he hailed as a giant win, finding that lower courts had likely overstepped in ordering universal injunctions blocking many of the president's policies. While the court's 6-3 opinion in Trump v. Casa appeared to disarm Trump's opponents of perhaps their most potent legal weapon, his adversaries had other ideas. In the weeks since, Trump's challengers have seized on the ruling's openings, especially in the use of class action lawsuits in which a handful of plaintiffs may allege harm and seek relief on behalf of all similarly situated parties, to continue leveraging lower court judges to block the president's orders. Norm Eisen, one of the architects of the so-called rule of law and shock and awe strategy to blanket the administration with dozens of lawsuits, quickly helped bring a case before the New Hampshire District Court. The suit aimed to enjoin the president's ban on birthright citizenship, not only with respect to 5 named plaintiffs, but for, quote, a nationwide class of all other persons similarly situated. On July 3rd, the district court ruled in the plaintiff's favor in that case over the Trump administration's objections. Other plaintiffs prevailed in a separate case in D.C. District Court, challenging the president's crackdown on asylum claims at the southern border. Scholars on both sides of the universal injunctions issue agree that Casa's impact may be limited. Stanford law professor Mila Shahoni, a supporter of universal injunctions, wrote in Casa's aftermath that, quote, the court may have in the end accomplished little beyond handing the executive branch a litigation victory, because now plaintiffs can file class action lawsuits and do the exact same thing that they were doing before, which is blanket the administration with lawsuits and thus prevent them from doing what they're doing. Josh Blackman, a constitutional law professor at South Texas College of Law in Houston, who opposed universal injunctions in congressional testimony, told Real Clear Investigations that, quote, I am not sure how much Casa will actually check the ability of lower courts to halt presidential policies. By refusing to foreclose class actions and several other paths to nationwide or universal relief, many scholars argue the Supreme Court has set itself up to preside over future battles over the limits of these remedies, perhaps expanding its power relative to the executive branch. And as a result, they anticipate that the court's ruling may be the beginning of a war between the executive and the judiciary rather than its culmination. And so I think inadvertently, the Supreme Court identified the limits of judicial power when it comes to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court can only rule on what's, according to the Constitution anyway, they can only rule on the cases that are brought before them. That's technically how it's supposed to work. They're not supposed to rule broadly on all cases, though, I mean, there are many, many, many examples of that from the Supreme Court where a ruling in one case applies everywhere. But what you're seeing now is the filing of huge class action lawsuits. And my guess is many of them are going to be thrown out on appeal. But that doesn't stop the nationwide injunction that follows in said class action lawsuit. Now, you just got to get a group of people together, go to the nearest district court, get that judge to file an injunction, boom, you're off to the races. And that is exactly what's happening. Now, the question is, why aren't you hearing about this in the media? Why, I mean, aside from the Federalist, why isn't this front page news on foxnews.com or on Breitbart News? Though Breitbart will probably cover it because this really doesn't jive with what the president's saying. And so, and here's the other part of this, that there is bias on both sides, that the administration called the ruling on nationwide injunctions a victory. So why would they admit that it was kind of a Pyrrhic one? Now, Pyrrhic is probably the wrong word. Why it was a hollow victory? Well, it's because the president said this is a great win. This is a big win. And so the media is not going to report on it because they don't want the administration to look bad. And the other side of it, the liberal media, the Communist News Network, PMSNBC, CBS, ABC, the reason why they're not reporting on it is they don't want to draw attention to all of these class action lawsuits that are being filed, and they don't want it to appear that that there's anything nefarious going on, that they're doing exactly the same thing that they were doing before. So, I mean, again, watch what the other hand is doing more often than not. You'll find out that Yep, we didn't exactly get the win that we wanted. It's winning the first game out of a 3-game series, and by the way, my Texas Rangers, they have not been doing so good. If you wonder why we haven't had any moments of baseball zen, it's because I get one of them, and then the next game they screw it up again. Last night in the 7th inning, there was the most bizarre error that I've ever seen. Did you watch the game, 29? No, why not?
I was flying around the bighorns.
Yeah, messing around, off gallivanting is what you were doing. But yeah, 7th inning. So there's a ground ball, and the first baseman can't get to it, and the pitcher ends up getting it. And instead of just holding it, knowing that the guy's already on first base and there's no reason to do anything further, he grabs the ball and just flips it up in the air, and it ends up in the camera box, and it turns into a double instead of a single, and the Rangers end up losing the game. I mean, just absolutely infuriating.
So you're probably not aware of it because I know you don't care, but the NFL is now in its preseason. We got a couple more weeks of that, and then the games start for real. And I'll be able to regale you with an NFL update now and then. I try really hard to just take the politics out of it. They stop the stupid things at the beginning, the kneeling and all that stuff is gone
thank
now.
God.
Yeah.
That's what caused me to stop watching the NFL.
I love the game just like you love baseball, and I like baseball. But I love the game of football, like combat sports.
Yeah, you know what? I used to be a big Denver Broncos fan. I'm recovering, by the way. And I remember when all this kneeling before the national anthem started, and I thought, surely the Denver Broncos will not do this. John Elway is not going to permit this. And we turn on the game, and sure as heck, here's the Denver Broncos kneeling during the national anthem. And I swore right then I would never choose to watch. But now I'm since married, and the lovely Christine is a 49ers fan. That's her team. I'm
sorry.
That's her team.
San Francisco, you got to be kidding me.
Well, she likes the 49ers. Joe Montana, man.
Yeah.
Jerry Rice.
Well, that was a long time ago. There are some good things happening, and I'm looking forward to this season. I love Josh Allen over there at Buffalo.
What do you think about them doing away with the chains? Did you see that story?
I'm a traditionalist. I don't like it. Same thing in baseball. I don't want to see some computer calling balls and strikes.
Well, it's all part of the game.
That's part of the game. Yeah.
And that's why, the lovely Christine and I had this conversation. And my argument was, wait a minute, the spotting of the ball, that's part of the game. And, okay, so maybe the ball gets spotted a couple inches, short of the first down, but that's how you play it. Similarly, the umpire calling balls and strikes, that's part of the game. And even last night, the Rangers got a couple of gifts from the umpire that were clearly not strikes, but were called strikes. And, that's just part of it.
Look at the Kansas City Chiefs.
Do I have to?
I think the only better friend of the Kansas City Chiefs than the Zebras is Taylor Swift.
Yeah, probably. And I'm not certain that they really like her all that much. And again, I just can't get into football, even though, when we can, the lovely Christine and I watch a football game. I have to hand it to her. She doesn't really say too much when I turn on the baseball game, which there are a heck of a lot more baseball games in a season than there are football games. So, I can't really say too much. But when we come back, old Shifty Adam Schiff is after it. And turns out, weird, and I know you're going to find this a big, giant surprise, he was leaking and breaking the law while he was doing it. We're going to talk about that in just a second.
Ever since gold backing was removed from the dollar, the value has dropped significantly over the past few decades. Experts say this is one of the main reasons goods are more expensive and your savings are worth less each year. How would you know how many dollars to save for retirement if the valuation of the dollar changes over time? Would you work all week for that $20 gold piece? Let's look at the valuation of this coin from the 1970s to today. When President Nixon took us off the gold standard in 1971, this coin traded for about $275. Today, it trades for about $14,000. Buying and holding rare coins using only a fraction of your portfolio is our suggested way to save for the future. Call U.S. Coin Capital at 1-800-878-2646 to get your free United States Gold and Silver Buyer's Guide.
Make sure that you subscribe and follow the Cowboy State Politics podcast. You can do that from the website, cowboystatepolitics.com, or anywhere that you get your podcasts. That way, you'll make sure that you won't miss a single episode of Cowboy State Politics. Welcome to Lessons in Civility by Morton Buildings. Gentlemen, is your garage completely jam-packed full of all of your unnecessary crap? And your lovely wife has been on your tail, nagging you nonstop to clean it out? It's not because she just wants to incessantly irritate you. Chivalry dictates that you should clear out a space so she can park her car inside and you don't end up sleeping on the couch anymore. To do that, contact Nick and Jesse at Morton Buildings. Their phone number is 307-674-2532. Not only are they the experts in metal building construction, they're also skilled at keeping you out of the doghouse. One more time, their phone number is 307-674-2532, or you can check them out at their website, mortonbuildings.com. This has been Lessons in Civility from Morton Buildings. Welcome back to the program. David Iverson, doing what I was born to do each and every day, having more fun than anybody should be allowed to have. Welcome back to the program, my friends. It's Cowboy State Politics Live on a Thursday. You know, Agent 29 and I often talk about business development and that it's really not the government that can do any sort of business development. In fact, it's impossible. There's a number of reasons, which I've told you about a lot. But let me tell you about a guy who is actually trying to do it without government at all. And there's over the weekend, there's going to be what's called the Professional Biker Rodeo. First annual, and they're going to kick it off here in Sheridan, Wyoming. It's going to be this weekend, the 15th and the 16th. And if you've never been to a biker rodeo, they're pretty entertaining. You know, and anytime you go to any sort of bike rally, motorcycle rally, you don't have to be like on a bike to do it. I mean, a lot of people show up in cars just to watch, but you'll see motorcycle games and things. People do things with motorcycles that you never thought was possible. And so that's going to take place here in Sheridan, the 15th and the 16th. And if you want more information, just go to my friend of mine. His name is Ben Barlow. He's got some information on his Facebook page. That's Ben Bartow. I'm going to try to get him on the program to talk about his biker rodeo. We may the interview will probably show up next week if we can make it happen. But this weekend, Sheridan, Wyoming, the 15th and the 16th should be a good time if you got nothing to do. The lovely Christine and I will probably head up there just to check it out. So business development outside of government. Who would have known? Well, all those government types should. Adam Schiff, the guy with the biggest eyeballs that I've ever seen. Shifty Adam Schiff, Bull Schiff. We can come up with all sorts of names for him, but there's a piece in Just the News And it's entitled, Democrat Whistleblower Told the FBI That Schiff Okayed the Leaking of Classified Intelligence to Hurt Donald Trump. Who would have saw this one coming? And I quote, FBI Director Kash Patel released bombshell documents to Congress showing how agents traced classified leaks to sources, but the Department of Justice did not act. A career intelligence officer who worked for Democrats on the House Intelligence Committee for more than a decade repeatedly warned the FBI beginning in 2017 that then Representative Adam Schiff had approved leaking classified information to smear then President Donald Trump over the now debunked Russiagate, or what we're calling on this program, Obamagate scandal, according to bombshell FBI memos that Kash Patel turned over to Congress. The FBI 302 interview reports obtained by Just the News state that the intelligence officer, a Democrat by party affiliation who described himself as a friend to both Adam Schiff and Republican House Chairman Devin Nunes, considered the classified leaking to be, quote, unethical, illegal, and treasonous, but was told not to worry about it because Schiff believed he would be spared prosecution under the Constitution's speech and debate clause. Now, you wonder why Adam Schiff so often said that I have absolute evidence. There's absolute evidence of Russia collusion. Do you remember how many times he was on TV saying that, on the floor of the House of Representatives saying it? He was very, very vocal. And one of the reasons he was doing that is to cover himself with all of his leaking, because there is an exemption. So same thing happens in Wyoming, that you can't be held liable for what is said on the floor of the House of Representatives because you're covered by speech and debate, though you probably should. One instance that former Redcoat Speaker of the House Eric Barlow let go by is when Steve Harshman was caught on a hot mic calling... well, I can't even say it on my program. I won't say it on my program, but a really, really foul name. And I was sitting in the gallery when it happened, and it reverberated through the gallery. Did Eric Barlow do anything about it? Well, of course not. Yeah, all he did was say, sounds like somebody was caught on a hot mic. And then after there was public pressure put on him, he took Steve Harshman's computer privileges away, made him actually show up to do his job. Boo-hoo. Anyway, so no publicly disclosed opinion from the Attorney General or the Solicitor General can be found making this determination of law that when Schiff leaked all that classified information, that it was illegal or treasonous. There's nothing that says that they even really looked at it. But officials told Just the News that DOJ officials showed little interest in pursuing Schiff when the allegations were brought to them years ago, citing the very same excuse that the lawmaker had offered, that he was covered by speech and debate. In the most recent interview with the Bureau in 2023, the whistleblower, whose name is redacted, told agents from the FBI St. Louis office that he personally attended a meeting at which Schiff authorized leaking classified information. Quote, when working in this capacity, and they redacted the staffer's name, was called to an all-staff meeting by Schiff. In this meeting, Schiff stated that the group would leak classified information which was derogatory to President of the United States, Donald Trump, and that Schiff stated the information would be used to indict Trump. So he was the source of the leaking. They leaked it to the media, and they were going to use the media report that used the leaked information as evidence to impeach him. It's one big circle, and it all starts with Adam Schiff. The whistleblower told investigators that he, quote, stated this would be illegal, and upon hearing his concerns, unnamed members of the meeting reassured that they would not be caught leaking classified information. Well, we see how well that worked because it all made its way straight to the media. Now, the day after this story was published, Schiff provided Just the News a comment. Now, listen to what shifty Adam Schiff has to say. Quote, Kash Patel's latest smear against Senator Schiff is absolutely and categorically false and is just the latest in a series of defamatory attacks from the president and his allies meant to distract from their plummeting poll numbers and the Epstein Files scandal, Schiff told Just the News. These baseless smears are based on allegations that were found to not be reliable, not credible, and unsubstantiated from a disgruntled former staffer who was fired by the House Intelligence Committee for cause in early 2017. So it goes on and on, just a back and forth. And this is the problem that I think we have, and hopefully Kash Patel is going to solve this. But one of the big problems we have is that everything is political. that even the prosecution of crime is political, that we can have elected officials commit crimes and we allow them to get away with it because, well, that's just politics. That's just how the game is played. We can't prosecute them because it's just politics. And at the same time, the media and those elected members of Congress or officials in the DOJ, they just further muddy the water with more politics. For example, this statement from Adam Schiff that I just read to you, that its only purpose is to muddy the water so it looks like any prosecution of Senator Schiff is just nothing but politics. And I mean, it is a dirty game, and we've got to get away from it. We have to prosecute people when they commit crimes. And that, I mean, it doesn't matter if you're elected or not. If you commit a crime, you should be prosecuted for it. Oh, by the way, another thing that former Redcoat Speaker of the House, Eric Barlow, did was he let Dan Zwanitzer off the hook. Oh, okay, he put it up for a vote. But when we had Dan Zwanitzer dead to rights on voter fraud and moving out of his district, it was Eric Barlow that pretty much just shoved that underneath the rug. Oh, he held a vote, but they had the majority. The truth is, Eric Barlow should have said this is a criminal case and kicked it to the Attorney General, which Bridget Hill probably wouldn't have done anything with it anyway. But it was Eric Barlow that did away with that and made sure that Dan Zwanitzer didn't have anything to worry about. So, I mean, it's politics all around, my friends, and we've got to get to a place where we're actually prosecuting crime. I went ahead and opened up the phone lines. Actually, they've been open all program long. This is just the first time I've mentioned to them. If you want to be part of the show, the phone number here in the studio is 307-374-8989. 307-374-8989. If there's something on your mind that you want to talk about, go ahead and give me a call. We'll leave the phone lines open for the rest of the program. Now, perhaps you've heard this next one. There's a video going around where a Bravo, that as in the TV station, star Jennifer Welch says that white people should just go hang out at Cracker Barrel. And, the video that was published is bad enough, but really, you should watch everything around it so you get the whole thing in context. So here in just a second, I've got a video I'm going to play for you, and we're going to do a stop and start with it. And fair warning, I think I went through and got all the profanity out of it, because you'll hear when we get into the video how many F-bombs are dropped. And I think that I bleeped them all out. It was early this morning when I was doing show prep. So I hope that I got them. But let me just read from the article just for a little bit. Quote, Bravo star Jennifer Welch has had it with Donald Trump supporters who, quote, have the nerve and audacity to dine at foreign-themed restaurants featuring Indian, Chinese, Mexican food, or to go to a gay hairdresser, if they truly believe in the president's aim to rid the country of illegal immigrants. Instead, she orders them to get your fat behinds over to the Cracker Barrel. Welch attacked MAGA backers who continue to frequent such businesses owned by those targeted by Trump policies in the latest episode of her I Had It podcast. Now, one of the reasons I wanted to play a big portion of this is to show you where the left thinks that the country is at. That, the right has podcasts, this one, for example, and I would never dream to have a profanity-laced tirade on the program. I mean, every once in a while I slip. There was one earlier this program, but I try really hard not to have profanity on the program. Well, the left, and if you've noticed, a lot of them are swearing during television interviews, public appearances, and that's where they think you're at. And so this I've Had It podcast, this is an interesting look inside the Democrats' thinking. So let's go ahead and play the first little bit of it. And then we'll do a stop and start. Go ahead and hit play, Ken.
So we're supposed to start the podcast.
Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Patriots, gay-triots, they-triots, black-triots, brown-triots. Welcome to America's top DEI podcast. Pumps, what have you had it with?
Okay, what I've had it with, and I know I've talked about this.
So the top DEI podcast. Does anybody really want to listen to this? The answer to that is no, by the way. But this is where the left thinks that you're at. That we have elected a president overwhelmingly who one of his main campaign promises is that he was going to do away with DEI. And these Fruit Loops think that the best possible, the most successful podcast that they could have is one about DEI. And they don't really talk about DEI a whole bunch in the show, but go ahead and hit play again.
This before, but I hate it when you're driving on the highway and somebody is driving slow in the fast lane, because it's not only annoying, but because you're just treading water. You can't get behind the slow person because the fast person won't move, vice versa. So you're suspended in time, I feel like. And then I personally take it a step further and I start creating a narrative about that person. Like, this person is so stupid.
Yeah.
They don't know that you're supposed to drive fast and just pass in the fast lane unless you're going to drive fast. That tells me they're a Trumper. And I know they're a Trumper because they're stupid. And then I get mad. Like, I cannot believe that person. Then I see that they have a kid in the car and I'm like, they're generationally perpetuating Trumpism. And this is all because they're going in the slow lane. But I take it, I mean, they're going slow in the fast lane, but I take
All
it.
right. Hold on. We got to talk about this. So this is a podcast, and I haven't looked to see how many supporters they have or how many viewers they have. But the problem is, okay, so if you're just acting ridiculous in traffic, you're obviously a Trump supporter. And you're so stupid that you must be a Trump supporter. And oh my God, you have a baby and you've procreated and you're going to perpetuate this Trumpism. This is what they think about you, my friends.
Having children is a problem for a lot of them.
Well, it is. I mean, if you think that you're a woman and you're actually a man, you're not going to be able to have children. So that just kind of gives you, puts this whole thing in context. Let's go ahead and listen to a little bit more of it.
To a whole nother level that my blood is boiling, because I just immediately now, anybody that does something that's idiotic or stupid or a lack of self-awareness, they immediately go into my Trump MAGA pile. And then I get enraged.
I think that's so relatable. And it's so such an easy, like right now, it's just like an easy place to deposit all of the grievances, just to blame on, just put it all in MAGA. I don't know what it is, this American machismo. I think we just have a culture that has a lot of beta males in it. And where we
they're
don't
all in
want
the Democrat
beta
Party.
males to feel their level of beta, we've told them they're alpha.
Oh my God.
And capitalism has offered them things that they can purchase to make them feel like they are big boys, like big trucks, big tires, nut sacks for the trucks, little
okay,
eagle
I kind
shirts,
of agree with her on that one.
MAGA coated merch stuff, and then we've offered
Stop.
president
All right, so the whole thing is it's capitalism that is creating all of the problems, creating all of these beta males. Have you looked at a picture of their Pete versus our Pete? Have you seen that meme? It's got a picture of Pete Buttigieg, and he's pretending to nurse his kid, whichever judge gave them, or whichever adoption agency gave those people a little child, it needs to be prosecuted. But anyway, in the meme, it's got a picture of Pete Buttigieg, and then right next to it is Pete Hegseth, and he's got, he's just in his T-shirt, and you can see his "We the People" tattoo, and it just says, "Their Pete, our Pete." But they're in the show, in the podcast, they're lamenting that there are all these beta males, and really they're just not real. They're just buying all this stuff to make themselves feel real. I mean, Ken, is that what you do? I mean, do you buy stuff just to, improve your machismo?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, usually guns.
Yeah, well, that's what I do, too. I mean, well, had I not lost them in a tragic boating accident. All right, let's play a little bit more of it.
Makes them feel like they're badass, when really that just all of those things just show how beta they are, because all they do is follow what the beta herd is doing.
You're so right about capitalism gives them a way to say, hey, I'm not a beta male, I'm an alpha male.
Right.
And it's the whole, just the tires, and it's all for me.
Okay. All right. So how do people actually think like this?
I think the little touchpad there was obsessed.
But seriously, though, I mean, I have never met anybody that thinks this way, and that folks on the left, these two chicks, that they think that this is how the world works. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. I just that they view the world in terms of beta male. I don't even understand it. I mean, it's absolutely fascinating to me.
Well, like I alluded to a little bit, but I don't think we have to worry too much about any children coming out of these two.
No, I don't think so. Go ahead and hit play again.
And I know I've said it a million times, it's overcompensating. You're afraid you're either small manhood or bad in the sack, because those things follow. And so then I have to talk tough. I have to talk down to women to prove how big my dick is.
Oh, I missed
and
one. Sorry.
I can hate it.
I've had it with white people that triple trumped.
Yeah.
Okay.
That have the nerve
stop.
and the audacity.
So now it's triple trumped. Did you catch that? That's somehow a thing now. I mean, of course, she's referring to voted for Trump 3 times, but that's it. Now it's people who triple trumped, and I just think that this is a fascinating view into the mind of leftists, and that they actually think that this sort of thing is, appealing to, to people that view podcasts. I mean, maybe it is. Obviously, they have a show, and maybe it fits into the same category as the Michelle Obama podcast, which, I mean, it's equally as disgusting. It just makes me want to vomit. But I mean, it is absolutely incredible to me that you have folks that have this worldview, that actually believe that this is the way the world functions.
I think one of the things that's telling about this is they obviously have never been around MAGA males.
No, they've never
been around a true alpha male who has respect for women, who has respect for mankind.
Heck no, you'd be yelled at if you opened the door for him, Ken. I mean, and this is part of, and I've been wanting to talk about this for a while, not this podcast. I just found this morning. Actually, I think I may have found it last night when I was doing show prep. But the feminization of, that comes from feminism. And by feminization, I mean that you heard him go on for like 3 minutes about beta males. And I, frankly, I mean, I guess I've met some people like this, the soy boys that, with the man buns and all of that. But really, there is a concerted effort on the left to say that anything that is masculine is therefore bad. That if it is masculine, that it is therefore the cause of all of these bad things in the world. And it is straight up man-hating. And like you said, Ken, I don't think these two are in danger of having to deal with any, masculine men in their lives. I don't know a single guy that could put up with them, to tell you the truth. But go ahead and hit play. There's more of this.
To walk into a Mexican restaurant,
here's the bad part,
a Chinese restaurant, an Indian restaurant, go to perhaps their gay hairdresser, white women that may use a gay makeup artist. I really genuinely believe that if you triple trumped, then you are all about preserving the lack of culture in white America that has led us to where people go and Bible thump with their AR-15s.
I knew Ken couldn't stop himself. I knew it.
Okay. I go to a barber. Now, it is astounding how out of touch somebody can be that obviously has never been in real America. As shocked as they would be if they went and spent a week with me.
Or even in Sheridan.
Yeah.
Or in Wyoming, period.
Yeah.
It leaves you dumbfounded, doesn't it?
A lot more than I could say, but this is certainly enlightening.
Well, it gets a lot worse here in just a second.
Oh, good.
Yeah, but did you catch what she said? That there is no white culture, and maybe she repeats it here in just a second. But there's no white culture, so you have to appropriate it from other cultures. That's why you go to a Mexican restaurant or the Chinese joint that's down there by Home Depot. That's why you go there, is to take their culture.
The culture that she is decrying created America.
Yeah.
What have the other cultures created? Do we want to go live in an Islamic regime.
She probably wouldn't fare too well. Though.
Well, I'm not going to say it.
See, this is just a giant trap for Agent 29 to see exactly what he'll say. Well, the point is, and I think that there's a couple different things here. First of all, she says that there's no white culture. Second, that you only do these things because, you want to go Bible thump or go buy a gun. And obviously that has nothing to do with culture. That your religious viewpoint, your religious beliefs and convictions, that's not part of your culture. No. That's white culture. You've appropriated it from somebody else.
It's all because you have a little wee-wee.
Yeah, well, they did mention that, and evidently, maybe the men that they've been interacting with that suffer from that. I don't know. Keep going.
Like, that's the only thing that I see when you get all white people together in the United States. There's no
She's
culture
white,
at all. So they have to go borrow culture from people. Even the word woke, they've borrowed from Black culture. I went to a Mexican restaurant with my parents, my son, my husband over the weekend. And there's just all these MAGA look.
So she actually has a husband? I mean, what do you think this guy is like?
I'll bet he's a beta.
I'll bet he is too. Can you imagine being married to that woman? Wow. But I don't think that anybody could put up with her. I mean, I certainly could. But anyway, continue.
People in there, and I thought, you've got a lot of fucking nerve coming into this Mexican restaurant where every single waiter, obviously English was their second language, served with a smile. They run a great little local business, and Oklahoma City is a better place because of these hardworking immigrants that come in here. But I cannot imagine the horror they feel when they are driving to and from work, when they might have a hearing on their legal status.
Yeah.
I can't imagine the people who've already been taken from their lives. Right. And to see these fat ass, pink arm, teeny weeny beta p***s with their ugly ass wives walk into this Mexican restaurant and sit down and smile and be friendly. I don't think you should be able to enjoy anything but Cracker Barrel. Get your fat asses over to Cracker Barrel. Quit watching NBA basketball. Quit watching sports that are dominated by African Americans. Quit going to Mexican restaurants. You want white culture? You go fucking live in it. You live in it, bathe in it, go to do all the white culture stuff, get your Bible thump on, go get in the dunk tank at the mega church after you watch your mega preacher drive off in his Rolls Royce, and then go, to the shooting range and go shoot. But do not participate in any of that makes America cool. And what makes America cool is multiculturalism. If you want to triple try.
All right. So, I mean, you don't have any right to go to a Mexican restaurant or anywhere else. You just go Bible thump and go buy your guns and go to the shooting range because whites don't have any culture. That really what makes America cool is multiculturalism. The irony being, of course, it is not multiculturalism that created America. The one place where she is able to create said podcasts, that she is able to sit and talk about all the really nasty things that we just listened to her say, is because of America, that we exist as a melting pot. And that's the one thing that these type of people, radical feminists, radical leftists, Marxist, I'm sure if we could stand to listen to any more of her, we'd find out that she's a radical Marxist. That's the one thing that they can't stand, is that we actually have a culture that exists, and that it is a melting pot, that everybody comes together and creates this amazing country.
Out of the heart, the mouth speaks.
Yeah.
That's a black heart.
Oh, man. Pretty amazing, though. And the reason why I put you through all of that is just so that we could get a view into the mind of somebody who is very clearly a leftist. But that's how the left views you, my friends. And so, I don't know a single person that would agree with it. Even some of the radicals that I've talked to down at the so-called protests on Grinnell Plaza, I've not run into a single person that actually believes that stuff. But that's what you get when you're in a cloistered, isolated environment that you only allow you and your other liberal pals in. And these are the crazy ideas that you come up with. What makes America cool is multiculturalism. Yeah, but it's multiculturalism that is destroying our society. That immigrants come here and they are not assimilating into the American culture, but rather they're just they're setting up their own culture wherever they're at. And that's why you're getting majority Muslim neighborhoods. And I use the example of Dearborn, Michigan, but it's a perfect example. And there are others around the United States. It's a very different thing when, you go to San Francisco and you go to Little China. I mean, that's a really cool place. And you could probably make the same argument that those folks didn't assimilate, but I disagree entirely. That while you preserve the good things from your culture, the things that you like, the things that make you who you are, but you also assimilate to America. And what makes those neighborhoods, those areas of our country so cool is that they have assimilated into our country, that it is capitalism that allows them to live the life that they want.
I couldn't agree more. You have boroughs of New York, for example, that maybe the Irish are over here or whatever. Yeah. But Sheridan's a good example of that, too, because there's a large Polish population here. And it used to be you'd turn on the local radio.
There's
and
a large German population in Buffalo.
Well, they'd have the polka hour and all the things. I've been to several weddings and the dancing and all that stuff. But when it comes right down to it, they're Americans first.
Absolutely. And that would be, I bet if you said that, well, we wouldn't be caught within 200 yards, 500 yards of that podcast. But I bet if you said that same sort of thing to them, they'd scream you out of the building. But just amazing, a view into the mind of a leftist. Let's go ahead and take a break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about Bill Maher. He says that The View is not good for women. We'll do that when we come back. Everybody say, it's spring-ish in Wyoming. Well, what that means for the uninitiated is that it's going to be 70 degrees one day and then snow 1.5 feet the next. And really, if you don't like those two options, just wait a little bit. The weather will change. I know, it sounds a little stressful, but really you should put your mind at ease and buy a pair of socks from the Buffalo Wool Company. They'll keep you warm and dry even on the nastiest, coldest spring-ish day, and they'll keep you cool and dry even when it's 75 and sunny. To get you a pair, go to their website, thebuffalowoolco.com. Trust me, you're not going to be disappointed. Are you one of those guys that listen to the president just a little bit too closely and now you're tired of winning? Are you getting the feeling that there's been way too many good things happening in our country and you just can't take it anymore? Well, if you are, and you think you should follow Rosie O'Donnell's example and get the heck out of Dodge, you need to call Rebecca Bextel at eXp Realty. She'll make those foreign country living ideas a reality for you. All you have to do is call 307-699-3519, and she'll make sure some freedom-loving, red-blooded American will now live in the home that you no longer want. If you want to sell your house, or if you want to buy one that's way better than the house you have right now, give Rebecca a call. Again, her phone number is 307-699-3519.
I've never felt the freedom like I do. I feel stronger every day, don't you? Well, I can show you how. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. I've never felt the freedom like I do.
program is only going to continue to expand from every corner in this state, now to every state in this nation. It's Cowboy State Politics with close to 500,000 views already this year. Welcome back to the program, my friends. Thank you for watching, listening, wherever you're at in the great Cowboy State, or elsewhere for that matter. You know, we were talking during the break that, well, and I guess if you're just joining us before the break, I tortured you with a couple of liberal women on their podcast, but I doubt they would try that anywhere in Wyoming. And as Agent 29 eloquently said during the break, I doubt that any of them, either of those two, have really talked to any real American. That type of thinking only exists in a very small, isolated circles. You know, there's probably only a couple of places in Wyoming that maybe there's some liberal women in Teton County that think that way. Hopefully they keep to themselves. I don't know. Maybe the one house on the other side of where Ken lives in his district with the rainbow flag, with the Bruce Burns sign in the front of it. Maybe that sort of conversation happens there. But there are other liberals, my friends, that are not so crazy. Now, I've told you for a long time that Bill Maher is a classic liberal. For a long time, he had a show on HBO. Now he's got his podcast, which, there's a lot of liberal stuff on there. But on occasion, he has an interesting guest. And, well, I shouldn't say this time is an interesting guest. But they do talk about one thing. And that is The View. And shocking though it may be, Bill Maher says that, The View is actually not good for women. So there was, let's see here. I don't have a piece. Nope, I didn't print it out. Okay, anyway. So Bill Maher went on The View, and they were talking about Joe Biden. And believe it or not, he actually kind of argued with him a little bit. So first, let's go to the video of Bill Maher on The View. Go ahead and play that, and we'll watch that, and then we'll talk about it on the other
hat
side.
that you keep wearing, that red hat that says "Make America Great Again," that tells people that you go along with this. So you might as well just put a swastika on the hat. Sure. So, but I'm nervous about saying anything against Biden because I feel, not that I have so much power, and you have some more than I do, obviously. But
I don't know about that.
Are you afraid that you might, influence people who are on the fence?
I think you lose all credibility. I do. My bond with my audience has always been I don't pull a punch.
Yeah.
My bond with my audience is you're not going to like everything I say, but I'm saying what I really think is true. Biden just presents as old. It's not really fair.
No.
Because he's almost the same age. Trump is almost the same age as him.
I know.
But Trump doesn't present that way. You look at somebody right away, you can kind of just sum them up. We are not young, but we don't present as old.
Yeah.
Biden does. I saw him yesterday making that speech.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, he's cadaver-like.
But his brain is good. He's still great.
Look, I'm not going to defend Donald Trump ever, but I would never say that we should put the swastika on the cap because I think you can hate Donald Trump. You can't hate everybody who likes him. It's half the country. I don't want to live in that country. I don't want to live in the country where I hate half the country, and I don't hate half the country.
How dare you disagree with me?
Did you hear what she said?
Joy is a wonderful human being, and she should not be afraid that people are going to attack her because she said that thing about the swastika on the cap. She does not think that as you said to me in the break, you do not think that all the people who are for Trump are Nazis.
No, I don't.
You don't.
I just want them to pay attention to words like vermin and poisoning the blood and the Third Reich. That's all. That's really what I'm asking.
They see Trump as a comedian. They see him.
Okay, so that gives you a pretty good idea of Bill Maher's appearance on The View. Now, he's obviously a liberal. He says he's not going to defend Trump ever, but still, he went back and forth with him. And this is one of the reasons why I say that he's a classic liberal. He's not one of the wackos that we watched a little bit ago that I tortured you with. He told, in a nice way, told Joy Behar, look, I'm not going to say that everybody needs to put a red hat, that wears a red hat needs to put a swastika on it. And you heard her kind of like, well, I kind of believe that. Okay, Bill Maher doesn't. Now, here's the point that I'm getting to, is that even he realizes the toxicity of the left. And that's what it is. And in Wyoming, we get a muted portion of that because even the liberals The radicals like Joe Barbudo, even they realize that toxicity, that venomous hate for everything that is Donald Trump and conservative, that's not going to play here. Like, you cannot be, excuse me, you cannot be a liberal in Wyoming, run for office, and come out and call everybody that supports Trump a Nazi. Okay, you're not going to get elected. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't liberals that believe that. There certainly are. There was a guy at Chuck Gray's rally, not rally, but open house, I guess. Town hall. There we go. That's the word I was looking for. I mean, he clearly had Dayton Trump derangement syndrome, without a doubt. I mean, his question, or wasn't even really a question. At one point, he started screaming at Chuck Gray because Chuck wasn't going to agree with him.
You know what was interesting to me is he started out, he was sitting on the bleachers. They had a bunch of folding chairs down front, and he chose to come sit up in the bleachers with the press. And that's where I sat too.
Yeah.
But
well,
when
weird.
This thing started, and I think you guys can see him, he's laid out on the bleachers.
Oh, yeah, very, very disrespectful.
He's addressing the Secretary of State of Wyoming and doesn't have the decency to sit up and speak clearly.
No.
It's like he's laying on his couch with his hand in his belt, and he thinks he's going to influence people. And then it was just, it was just dribble. It was meaningless attacks, groundless, baseless.
Yeah, Orange Man bad,
noise,
really, is what it was. Now, there are those people, but you're not going to get those type of folks that are going to run for office and have any level of success whatsoever. Now, I want to play for you a piece that it's from Bill Maher's show, and unfortunately, he's interviewing Drew Barrymore. And, she's got her little show, podcast, whatever it is. But in this one, he says that the ladies on The View, and I think that he says ladies. I don't know that I would go that far. But he says that they're not helpful to women. Go ahead and play this one, Ken. It's cut number 2.
Friendly with some of the ladies on The View, and I love them, but I would do that shows a lot. And I think I'd rather.
Joy came on our show, and
I love Joy.
She literally had the best time. She's like, "What the is going on here? No one comes to stop us." Like, no. I'm like, "Yeah, it's a playground. Like, it's so chill and fun. I didn't want to do anything tropey or over timed. I wanted to find something different there."
I mean, I love Whoopi and Joe. Those are the two I really know. And I did it like a year ago, and I liked everybody, but I don't know if they're really, at this moment, the best advertisement for women. They just, it's
a format, that show.
They say some things that are just not helpful, say to elections.
Yeah.
Yes, I like your plan, except it sucks, so let me do the plan, and that way it might be really good.
Yeah, exactly right. So, even Bill Maher said that, the radical leftism that comes from folks that were on that podcast, that comes from The View, it's really not helpful to women. And what I think he means is women in general. And The View almost presents as a cartoonish version of what liberals think that women are. And actually, it's pretty amazing to me that in some ways, to the left, that women in general are just a caricature, that it's just a cartoon, and that this is the way that you're supposed to think. And that's not true at all. I mean, most of the women in my life that I know are amazing, that they're extraordinarily talented, that in some ways they're, far smarter than we are.
Well, you run in some pretty good circles.
Well, that's true. It's true. The lovely Christine, yeah.
I just, there's a lot of projection in that. And when you go back to that horrible podcast with the 2 women, and you talk about, if you were going to write that as a Saturday Night Live skit, could you write it
any better? No. And that is exactly what the left thinks of you. And the only reason that folks that like The View, like that horrible podcast, and there's a lot of others, there's a podcast for just about every type of thing that you could possibly think of. But the reason why you hear stuff like that is that that's their vision of who you are. They think that's what appeals to you. And the truth is, it's not. Like the left, even the left in Wyoming is so horribly out of step with average everyday Americans like you and me that there's no wonder why they're losing support. There's no wonder why Trump was elected with the overwhelming margins that he was. It's because the left, the Democrat Party in America, they have pretty much lost all sense of reality. And what you're seeing is, and I've heard I've seen some comments online that, well, this is the death throes. No, it's not the death throes, though it very much resembles that in many cases. This is the left grasping at straws. It's an attempt of them to try to find something that they can grab a hold of, something that will resonate with American voters. And what you're seeing is them trying, well, let's try this method over here. Oh, that doesn't work. Okay, let's try this. So it was, at first it started with Yasmin Crockett and AOC and, a lot of the other Democrats swearing. Do you notice that in interviews? They were dropping F-bombs and it was swearing all the time, thinking that that's what resonates with real Americans. And it tells you, again, the cartoonish view that they have of everyday American voters. That, all they do is sit around and they talk about guns and they swear and drink beer and they're all fat and they just eat at Cracker Barrel. That's the view.
My favorite sandwich in grade school. You don't think this isn't relevant?
Peanut butter and jelly sandwich is what he says.
Yeah, I just say that because to me, that was a good example of what you were talking about. Here's somebody that's trying to relate to the public at large. My favorite sandwich is a peanut butter and jelly.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit like Tara Nethercott talking to everybody like they're a third grade class.
Exactly.
And I'm so sick of it.
Yeah. I mean, it is really, they really do have the highest level of contempt for you. And the main reason why you're seeing all of this outrageous behavior is it's their attempt to try to find something that will resonate with you and cause you to identify with them. And I don't mean I identify in the woke sense. What I mean is to say, well, there's somebody that acts like me, that talks like me, and that I'm going to follow. And the ridiculous part of it is they are so outlandish and so overtly over the top that nothing that they do is going to resonate. Certainly in Wyoming. I mean, maybe there's those select, enclaves in Teton County or, maybe in Sweetwater County or in Cody. But I mean, it is not the overwhelming majority. And, I think it's important that we at least hit on, some of the things that the left is doing, just so that you can recognize them. That outrageous guy at Chuck Gray's town hall, he obviously thinks that most people agree with him. I was sitting right beside him. And several times he leaned over and said, well, don't you agree? I mean, don't you see what I'm getting at? And I didn't really say anything because he was already kind of irritated and loud. But several times during that town hall, he'd lean over, well, don't you see what I'm getting at? Don't you? I mean, you agree. No, I don't. Just because I happen to be sitting up where the press is. And I only sat there just to be respectful of everybody else. I recorded it. I can listen to Chuck Gray's town hall anytime I want. The folks that attended, they were there to talk to their Secretary of State. And so, no, most people do not agree with the radical left. And it's, and it's amazing to me. This is the same type of folks that have the bumper sticker that says coexist on them. Those same people will swear up and down that you don't have a right to, that you don't have a right to a voice, that we shouldn't listen to your vote. And it's the same type of thing that playing to. And it is similar to what Wyoming politicians do. Just about every single one of them, unless you're an honest Democrat. And by honest, I don't mean that you tell the truth. I mean that you're honest about who you are. You actually register as a Democrat. But a lot of the folks that run as Republicans, what's the one word you will see on all of their campaign advertisements? Conservative. Almost every single one of them will say, well, I'm a conservative. But there's never any definition of what that word means to them. It's the same type of patronization that you heard from those videos. Granted, those videos take it to a whole nother level, but it's the same patronizing behavior. Look at me. I'm one of you. You should vote for me. And, I know that you're not going to pay any attention to my voting record and shine. It's like Eric Barlow saying that he's conservative, that he supports Wyoming values. Really? I don't think that he does.
Have done caps, and some of them are wealthy states, but really who's benefited? The rich are going to benefit the most. They're going to benefit the most.
And there's Steve Harshman. Tax cuts for the rich. Who are these tax cuts going to benefit? It's only going to be the rich people. But those are the type of things that are said on the floor of the Wyoming House that they're fairly certain that you aren't going to hear them, which is one of the reasons why this program exists, so that I can show you a lot of these things. And as we get closer to the session, what you'll see is a lot of these radical leftists like Ogden Driscoll, Eric Barlow, Steve Harshman. I mean, anybody on members of the Wyoming caucus, they'll start toning down their rhetoric because they're getting closer to election season. And they want to get you on their side so that when you see how they voted, you will assume, well, I mean, I like Tara Nethercott, so yeah, she voted that way. That must be good.
Somewhere I've got a soundbite. I'll have to dig it up so I have it available. But I have a soundbite of Ogden saying to the people, "We have to sound the more conservative because we're coming up on an election year."
Yeah,
that's literally what he said.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly what they do. And again, and I don't think I can overstate this, that you'll hear them calm down the closer they get to the session, get you on their side. Oh, look at me. Look at them. I mean, they're no different than I am. I saw a comment on Facebook on one of Eric Barlow's posts. Maybe it was on the cow pie. Well, this guy voted the way that I agree with. He seems to stand for a lot of the things that I stand for. He's a conservative. And I immediately said, well, here's his voting record. I mean, why don't you go look at it? He votes with the Democrats 80% of the time, so I don't really see how that resonates with Wyoming conservatives. But that's the gag that they try to pull over you, the wool that they try to pull over your eyes. And I mean, in some cases it works. They had to get elected somehow, and the way that they do that is by here's one of the ones I wanted to talk about, by convincing you of things that just frankly are not true. And they're not conservative. They are radical Democrats, and the vast majority of them, the only reason that they have that R at the end of their name is so that you'll vote for them, to try to make you believe that they aren't nearly as radical as they actually are. One of the subjects that I don't think that I talk about enough on this program is AI. And I've been learning a lot about AI. In fact, I'm using it to create something that, frankly, my friends, I cannot wait to let you in on it on this program. It's not quite ready. I'm not ready to release it yet. But I've been learning a lot about AI. And I found this piece, and it's from the Indian Express. And by Indian, I mean it's one of the main online newspapers in India. And it's entitled, NASA and Google develop an AI medical assistant to be used by astronauts on deep space missions. So we're getting to the point of the computer in Star Trek. Okay. Now we all, the lovely Christine refuses to watch Star Trek with me because she says it's just completely, totally make believe. But here's a piece saying, we're developing an AI thing to assist astronauts. Let me just read you the first couple paragraphs. Quote, Google and NASA are working on a medical assistant powered by artificial intelligence that could be used for extended trips into space, starting with its Artemis campaign to return to the moon. The tool, called the Crew Medical Officer Digital Assistant, is currently a proof of concept AI designed to help astronauts diagnose and treat symptoms when no doctor is available on board or when communication with Earth is limited. The Crew Medical Officer Digital Assistant is powered by Google AI, and it trained on spaceflight literature. It's designed to support a crew medical officer or flight surgeon in keeping the flight crew healthy. The AI medical assistant provides real-time analysis of crew health and performance, enabling medical decisions driven by data and predictive analytics. So it's a computer program that's going to be diagnosing whatever the medical status of astronauts. Holy crap, my friends. Imagine where we were just a couple of short years ago when AI was just this cool little thing on Google that you could ask questions of, and it would do some dubious research for you. Most of the time, it came up with giant errors. Somewhere, I've got it printed out where I asked them to do a review of Cowboy state politics, and claimed that I'm a veteran journalist and I've been in the industry since 1986. Clearly not the case. But we've gone from that all the way to now it's the ship's doctor in a deep space mission. We are advancing faster than I think most of us have the comprehension to keep up with. And I really think that there are some serious questions we need to be asking about the development of AI, how far it's progressing, and if we as humans have the capability of controlling it. How many stories have I brought you where the AI has refused to turn itself off, that it's lied to its creator about turning itself off? I mean, there's some really frightening things, and frankly, some pretty cool things that are happening. But I think that we need to have some pretty serious conversations around it.
I'm sure you've read the articles about the newest edition of Chat GPT or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
I don't know. That is ashamed of itself because it realizes that it is failing. That's just an interesting concept.
Well, and so the question there, so that's an interesting topic. So can a machine that is not self-aware be ashamed of itself? Or is that just a response to stimuli? See, the difference between, being a sentient human being and being an animal, an amoeba, just a multi-celled organism, is that you have self-awareness. Or is the AI being ashamed, is that anthropomorphization. That is, giving human characteristics to something that is not human. And I think that as humans, we have a tendency to do that a lot. How many people talk to your dog? I mean, yes, I talk to our dogs all the time. And they probably, okay, yeah, I can already see the meme coming. But anyway, but dogs are not humans. They don't have the capacity to understand language. And though they can respond to commands, that's just Pavlov's bell is all that is. It's a response to stimuli. And so the question is what AI is doing now, is that a response to stimuli, or is that a self-awareness? And I would argue that we are not quite yet at the event horizon to where AI has become self-aware. God, I hope not, because if we are, well, that we are in no way prepared for that. But I really do think that we need to have some ethical discussions here about, all right, so at what point do we pull the plug? I mean, can we pull the plug? Is it even possible now?
Well, I keep taking this back to the Tower of Babel. It's the same kind of thing where God said, we're gonna confound their language, otherwise they'll do anything they set their mind to. And I think that's where we're coming again. And I take comfort in that. You said, we need to have discussions. Are we going to be ready for this? Man's never going to be ready for this. And at some point, God who built this and understands that is going to pull the plug. Whoop! Everybody out of the pool. and
or in the poo.
I look forward to it. I meant pool, like my good friend Bill Alleman would like to have down in Bar None.
Yeah, exactly. That guy. But let me ask you this question. So can we unplug AI? No. Here's why. You've heard me say on the program often that the internet is forever. Why is that? Well, because whatever you put on the internet, it gets transmitted to all sorts of different places, and you probably have no idea where all of those social media posts that you've uploaded have ended up. And there is no way to unplug the internet. And I think it's fairly obvious with Grok and Chat GPT and all these other things that there's no way that you could hit the off switch, that it is propagated to such a point that it's everywhere. And just think about this, right? Computer viruses. You ever had a computer virus on your computer that you clicked on something that you probably shouldn't have clicked on, and boom, all of a sudden there's pop-ups all over the place and there's no way to shut it off? Well, what's happening is that computer code is propagating itself through, and it's infecting every file on your computer. It's the same principle that, when you upload something to the internet, a picture, an audio file, whatever, that stuff is there for forever because it has propagated itself. And, with AI, I think that that's definitely where we're at. And again, I think that we have, as as a culture, as a race, I think that we've definitely leaped before we looked. And I think there's going to be some interesting developments coming as far as AI goes, and I hope it doesn't end in the whole Terminator thing. Well, we've burned up another busy broadcast, 2 hours on the program. Let me just give you a heads up of what's coming tomorrow and Friday. Tomorrow, we're going to have the interview with U.S. Representative Harriet Hageman. It's a phone call, and it's a good example of what happens when you're in a rural place and you're having trouble with your cell phone signal. But she's got some interesting things to say, so we'll do that tomorrow on the program. And then on Friday, on Open Line Friday, we're going to play the interview with President of Turning Point USA at the University of Wyoming, Gabe Saint. That's a pretty interesting interview. We had him in the studio for a little bit over a half hour. It's a good discussion, and you don't want to miss it. So stay tuned to Cowboy State Politics Live. It's every Tuesday through Friday, beginning at 8 a.m. And don't miss the Cowboy State Politics podcast every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And as it relates to that, today, the world according to Ogden Driscoll. I cannot wait for you to hear it, some of his greatest hits. But for now, from the base of the Bighorns, at the Cowboy State Politics Studio, I'm David Iverson, and this is Cowboy State Politics.